In terms of your own business, how many weeks or months do you usually book ahead?
The entire curve of my business has been me learning how to keep projects sustainably and consistently in order. I was like, oh, I'm completely overbooking.
Hey everyone, Daniel Grimmett here. You're listening to Producer Management, the podcast that lets you in on real conversations between professional music producers and their teams. The deals, the strategies, and the unfiltered advice. This show is brought to you by my company, Dark Label Music. When producers want clarity, strategy, and growth, they call us. So whether you're a small studio or a Grammy-winning veteran, reach out to us at darklabelmusic.com to see if we can help. Hey everyone, happy 2026. This is the first episode of the new year, and we're going to start things off with a banger. This is a great one. So as a freelance producer, sometimes you find yourself with not enough projects, and other times you may find yourself overbooked and starting to feel burnout. The ultimate goal, obviously, is to be somewhere in the middle while still being able to project future income. This is the game of finding stability. And there are many different phases to being full-time. You know, going full-time isn't the destination. It's really the starting point. Now you're actually on the field and you can truly learn how to play the game. So I pulled just an amazing clip from a private conversation between a few of my producers who are first-year full-timers asking questions to one of the junior consultants here at Dark Label, who I believe is in his fourth or fifth year being a full-time freelance producer. And he gives just some really helpful and transparent insights around things like how far to book in advance, the dangers of overbooking and why that can actually set you up to have less work. He talks about, getting into the habit early on in your career around setting boundaries with clients, even when you need the money. It's kind of scary and, much, much more. So I had just a big grin on my face when I listened back to this because it really shows the power of having a business-minded group of peers in this industry. I'm super grateful that I have one myself because what took someone 2 to 3 years to figure out can now be passed on so that it only takes the next generation of working producers, half the time or a quarter of the time to figure that stuff out on their own. So it's pretty amazing to see. I'm going to roll the clip here for you. It's about 10 minutes long, and then stick around because I'm going to come back and give you a quick tactic for staying booked and making this career feel more stable.
In terms of your own business, how many weeks or months do you usually book ahead or stay ahead to make sure that you're always actually fully booked when next month comes around? So it's not oh shit, I only have one project.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have you found the sweet spot of, or a rule or
Yeah, anyone want to chime in on that? How many months ahead do you guys book?
I mean, I'm happy to share. Best case, try and book 3 months in advance. I feel as though I don't know if that's what it is about that number, but if I feel like I've got things booked for the 3 months, I feel really good. If I feel like I've been booked for 2 months, I feel decent and I'm still kind of doing some outreach. If I feel like I have nothing for next month and I'm really leaning in harder on the outreach alongside whatever I'm working on.
Mm-hmm.
I would also say that I've tried to do more multi-song projects like EPs and stuff, because then I know I'm going to be working on 1 or 2 songs a month for that project for the next 3 months or something. So then it just allows me to plan my time a little bit better.
I think it's a great answer. And I was literally going to say the same thing, which is if you can project income for 3 months ahead of where you're at and you're looking solid, that's a really good, stable, sustainable pattern, I feel like. And then the further you get, the more you have, you can project income, but then you can also predict income a little bit too. You can know, when you have a really steady base of repeat artists, you can kind of be all right, these artists are on this kind of trajectory and rhythm. They're probably going to sustain that. But in the meanwhile, I should probably have a couple backup projects back here in case any of them fall through. And you kind of can put your projects in strategic places. But for me, it's definitely been that 3-month mark that Joey was talking about. If I can project 3 months into the future and I know what my income will probably be, and then I can make sure that I have a little bit more than that as far as projects that I'm stacking as the months go, that's where I've found consistency and sustainability for myself, is that 3-month mark. 2 is not enough. 4, I mean, is great, but it doesn't always, it feels a little like, sometimes to me, booking that far out feels a little bit like I'm letting things fall through. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it gets a little wishy-washy, even if they have done a positive, so 3 is like a sweet spot for me personally.
I'm just asking because in like November, I had not like starting December, I had basically almost booked January and February. And then the holidays happened without outreach. And now I'm kind of like midway or like halfway in January and like, shit, I got to find some project for March. That feels like I should have had something more. But because of the holidays and me taking a break, I kind of guess I got to learn to prepare for holidays.
The entire curve of my business has been me learning how to keep projects sustainably and consistently in order and do outreach and do like I literally feel like I just got the hang of it in the last year of my business. So it took me about 4 years, I guess 3.5 years to like get to the point where I wasn't doing this like feast, famine, feast, famine, feast, famine. Like it was just so consistent where I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy. And then have nothing. And then be like, oh my God, I'm so busy. And then have nothing, And so it's just like, it's just a roller coaster that you have to kind of like acclimate to and then figure out, okay, here's why I have nothing. It's because I'm just overbooking, because that's a real thing too. Like for me, I was like, oh, I'm completely overbooking to the point where I'm so maxed out that I let everything else slide. I'm not looking for new clients. I'm not doing outreach. I'm not doing YouTube. I'm not, whatever. Like I'm not doing anything I need to do to get more clients. So I actually have to go a little bit under that if I need to raise my rates, or whatever I need to do to get to the point where I'm not overbooking so that I can book consistently. You know what I mean? Like both are a real problem. And then also too, sometimes just like, the thing of like leaning back into, oh, I'm going to have the work. They said they're going to, when the money's not in the bank, right? It's like, no, if the money is not in the bank, the project's not going forward. I need to find something else to fill it. Even if they end up going forward, in my head, it's not done until the first deposit is in and we're working on stuff. And that is another mindset thing too, where it was like, I would lean back, think I had projected income, but there was no money in the bank. And so it's like, okay, cool. That project isn't going forward. I can't count on that $3,000. I can't count on that. I have to keep going until I for sure have them and then probably book on top of it, which goes back to that not overbooking thing, right? Because if you're overbooked, you think you have this income, you're not going to be looking for projects because you're so full.
Yeah.
One of the many learning curves for sure.
Yeah. I think I've been probably working a little bit too hard on projects just because like, oh, now I need to like seize the moment kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
People coming in like, oh, I need this released in a month. And then I'm like, taking working nights or like evenings extra to.
Yeah. Balance is huge, man. Get, early in your career, start booking a day off, like a full day off. You don't work, you don't touch anything, you don't do any music. Start putting clients on your schedule. If it's a rush fee like that, charge a rush fee. You know what I mean? If it's going outside, if it's requiring more of you, make sure you're charging for that. You know what I mean? Rather than just like, oh yeah, okay, because you don't need to do that. You have a business. It's like, it works to you. It's your business. You get to run it. For me, artists come in. I had an artist, he said, okay, cool. I said something like, typically I'll do 1 session a week with an artist, and maybe 2 if I have time. We could do 2 a week, speed up the deadline a little bit. And I said, what's your availability? He said, I have 5 days a week. And I said, okay, great, cool. That's great. So you're really flexible. We kept talking. And they said, cool. So we're going to do 5 sessions a week. And I was like, nope, sorry. I do not have the, we can do 2, maybe. Most weeks, some weeks I might have to bring it down to 1, but we'll do 2. And he was kind of like disappointed, like visibly. And he had already said like, I want to go, whatever. And he was so excited. And I had to be like, nope, can't do that. Sorry. I know that's what you'd really like to do, but like, no, I just can't do it. And he's like, oh, okay. All right. And he could kind of readjust, but for some reason he like heard me say 5 and I didn't, and I was like, no, can't do it. So, you have to be willing to like really just mold people to your business and be like, here's what we're doing. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we're doing. And then,
How do you adopt that mindset when you really need the money?
Yeah,
So you actually
totally.
really need to take those like kind of rush projects sometimes.
Well, knowing that putting yourself in a position where you don't need the money is everything, right? So if you're taking on, like I said, if you're taking on rush jobs, charging a rush fee for those jobs. Or if you're taking on night sessions and you need night sessions, charging a little more because of the night sessions or whatever that you have to take on. Or if that's your desired workflow, that's fine. But just anything pushing you out of your desired schedule, make sure you're charging for such, or get to a place where you're like, all right, if I've got to grind for a week to get out of this hole of like putting in all the crazy extra hours, but then once I'm up here, I'm not going to do that anymore. Even if I need the money, I'm going to make sure that I'm coming from a place of like managing my schedule and my business. And you're still in your first year, right?
Yeah, basically, I still haven't had like a full year of like really consistent projects. Like the last year,
Yeah.
I've been a little bit up and down. Some months really good, but not really like a full year.
I think it was probably my third year where I had like consistent projects through. Like I was full time all the other years, but I think on my second year was the first year that I had like a week or two during the year where I had to like DoorDash for 3 nights or, to kind of like make it over just that little hump. When it comes to your consistency, that'll just come with time, but also your first year is kind of chaotic and just being okay with that, being like, cool. My first year, I'm still figuring things out. I'm going to be working hours outside of what I need to be working. But then that's where you take that knowledge and you adapt it versus getting caught into a business where you're miserable because you're working all these crazy hours. Being like, cool.
Yeah.
If right now I'm working for consistency, I'm going to try to start implementing these things. If I have 2 or 3 weeks right now where I need to start grinding, but I know the trajectory is me coming out of it, me having a consistent day or two off, me whatever, working these and these hours, then you're working towards that, But the first year is chaotic, and that's just it's just you getting your feet on the ground. Like,
Okay, that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, tons of great takeaways there. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea to go back and listen to that one a few times. Now, I want to give you a quick tactic that my producers use, something tangible that you can start doing. You'll remember from the clip you just heard when they were talking about why being overbooked is dangerous, because when you're overbooked, you tend to get overwhelmed with projects and you stop marketing yourself, which then pretty much guarantees that you will stay on the up and down roller coaster. This is literally the most common mistake freelance producers make. I've worked with 1,000 producers at this point over the past decade, and I think every single one of them has made this mistake at the start. I mean, I hate to call it a mistake. It's just something you get into, and it's just like the natural flow of freelancing unless you intentionally fix something. I've obviously experienced it myself too. But here's what I do to help my clients fix that. Obviously, I have to start off by just showing them how to go get work in the first place, and that takes a little time to develop all those skills. But the moment they start getting work, I sit them down to have a pretty serious conversation with them, because it's going to determine which side of the, fork in the road that they go down. And I want them to go down the right one. Now, once they start getting work, of course that, their clients, the projects they're working on, those are a number one priority, 100%. But as early as possible, I try to instill the habit in them of never shutting off what got them the clients in the first place. And the quick tactic you can use for yourself is to simply have a high, medium, and low setting. And credit to my junior consultant for coming up with this. These are settings that refer to the intensity that you're going to put into getting work, or, all the things outside of working on projects, marketing yourself, whatever you want to call it. If you are booked 3 months in advance, then, maybe you're on a low setting. You're doing minimal outreach, content, etc., but you're never shutting it off. If you're booked 2 months in advance, then you might want to turn it up a bit to medium setting. You need to do a little bit more. And ideally, you get to a point, after year 1, year 2 in freelance, where you're at least always a month booked in advance. But if you're not, then you really need to be on that high setting, right? Most of your time will be spent getting work. Now, the cool part about these settings is that they are personalized to you. You kind of determine it. Obviously, a producer who is more experienced at getting work, it just takes them less effort and less time to do it. So their high setting might look a little less intense than a new producer who is still developing those skills. But the faster you establish this habit, the better off you will be. I can't tell you how many producers I meet who, no disrespect to anybody, but I meet producers that have been full-time for 10 plus years, very talented, on paper, they look great, but they're just still stuck on this massive up and down roller coaster. And this is not the minority of them. This is the majority of them. So they just never instilled that habit. And new habits are just a little harder to learn the older you get. So start it now. Start it as early as possible. And if you're completely unsure as to the process, for going out and getting clients, then I put a link in the description to a video that demonstrates that. Just look below, whether you're listening to this podcast on a podcast platform or over on YouTube, you'll find a link somewhere below in the description. And if you need more personalized help and accountability or just want to be a part of a business-minded group, then of course you can go to darklabelmusic.com and reach out, and we'll let you know if it makes sense for us to work together. Thanks for listening.